For those people in the audience who are thinking, okay, I have some knowledge in my head. I've always wanted to write a book. Shall I do it? My advice is, yeah, press that button and just get it done. That's exactly what I did with Leaders Press, because it's just been that thing in the back of my mind. I was getting that analysis paralysis. There's no way I was going to end up doing it myself and reading the 50 books that I'd bought to work out how to write a book.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Leaders Talk. It is another week here. It's another week with me, Andrew Dupy, the Chief Relationship Officer here at Leaders Press. And today I am joined by Rick Yvanovich. He is the author of Business as Unusual, with a very unusual title there, Rick. That's How to Thrive in the New Renaissance. Tell us a little bit about that, a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Thanks very much for inviting me on today.
I love having you.
Okay, business as unusual. Where did that really come from? I guess the idea of the book was really born during the COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
And as that was unfolding and as we were getting, should we say, locked in or locked down or restricted, there was a lot of press about, well, when we get over this and when we get back to normal, and then there was the new normal, and yeah, we can get back to business as usual, and things opened up again and offices opened up, and then a few months later there was another wave or another panic or whatever you want to call it, and it all gets shut down again. It'll be okay when we get over this. When things get back to normal and, we can get back to business as usual. And this really began to sort of wind me up because this has been going, on, off, on, off, on, off. I thought, there is no new normal. There's nothing new about it. There's definitely nothing normal about it. And there's nothing usual about anything. The only thing that's usual is everything is unusual. And all these things kept coming up, oh, that's the COVID, we'll get over that. And that was just a black swan, a bit of a curveball. Things will be okay. And then another curveball comes, and then another one and another one. So this is where I came up with the business as unusual, and was that's where the name came from. And as this pandemic thing and over the last few years has really panned out, and I guess in the last 6 months, or maybe more than that now, we're seeing the great resignation or the great departure or the great something or some other word that some other smart person is going to give to it. There's definitely been a huge shift in how an awful lot of people are looking at business, are looking at life, and are looking at work. And I wrapped this all up as in the first book of the trilogy called Business as Unusual.
Yeah. I mean, I like what you're saying there. Isn't always unusual. Isn't it always in flux? I mean, if you look at the course of history, I mean, just in business and government, whatever it is, it's constantly something coming up and changing things and people having to absolutely fundamentally change how they do their work.
Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. And so picking up on things like we need to be agile or we need to be resilient. We need these things, but this is all wrapped up. We need to get used to things being unusual. We need to be able to react when the next curveball hits us, or we hit the next road bump, or whatever it is, whatever life will throw at us. We have to bounce back, be agile, get over it, and just accept, it's another unusual thing, and let's just get on with life.
Some people, though, would say, I hear this all the time, be agile, but how do I be agile in my business? I mean, you can say that to me, But how do I actually take some of these curveballs, especially if I'm in a very niche business? If I'm in something like, say, in COVID, where it's a very customer based, and I am very much that kind of person that touches those. What do you say to those that say that agility is a little too difficult?
Okay, agility is a little bit too difficult. It's like everything in life. It's a choice. Okay. We can choose to do something, and we can choose not to do something. And I guess the trick is to try and work out what is it that we can do that will help us move forward and to get us out of whatever pothole that we're in. So to pick up your example, you say, hey, you're very, very, the niche business is very, very customer facing. And, something like COVID, where you can't get into the office and you can't get out of even your home, can't even get out onto the street.
How do you do business?
That really stops your face to face. I hear that, but we have to come up with something. So take my company, TRG. What do we do? I mean, as a company, pre-pandemic, we typically would visit our customers in at least 30 or 40 different countries a year. We jump on planes and we fly to all these countries where our customers are, and we go into the offices of our customers face to face, and we do what we need to do. For example, training. Come the lockdowns and countries closing down, and you can't even get onto a plane to leave your country, let alone get into another country, let alone get into the offices in that other country. Well, how can you deliver that face to face when you can't actually do it? The result was we couldn't do it literally for 2 years.
Right.
So what's the agile, you can call it agile, or what's the innovative thing to do, or how are we resilient about that and bounce back from, oh my God, is, well, if we can't do it face to face in the same room, then we have to utilize non-live face to face, like we're doing right now on this podcast. I can see you, you can see me, and we're using Zoom. Okay, so Zoom went from not very many people had heard of it to, yes, it's a standard thing that we're now all pseudo experts on. So yes, we tried to deliver training through Zoom, except that didn't work very well, because if we're doing a 1 week classroom training, which is like 6 to 8 hours a day, 5 days in a row, you cannot do that on Zoom. I can prove that because we tried it and it drives us all mental. Stupid idea. Didn't work for us. Might work for someone else. Didn't work for us for what we are doing. So what we ended up doing is we converted that training into self-service training. So we've all gone online and watched videos and done training courses on a Udemy or whatever. We built on one of those platforms our training. Okay. And so you could say that's being resilient, that's being agile. So agile, I see, is like seeing the opportunities, get yourself out of that hole if you're in a hole. Resilience is all about bouncing back. Yeah, you hit that pothole and the wheels have come off the bus type of thing, but okay, let's work out how to stick them back on and keep on going. That's what we have to do. To survive, you have to do that. Yeah,
absolutely. And speaking of opportunity, I mean, wasn't this a great opportunity for you to begin this book series that you have now? Is that something that the pandemic and the time that you had gave to you?
Okay, was the pandemic, to tell the truth, the idea came pre-pandemic, okay? And I had pushed the go button on doing the book, but it was the actual writing it and fleshing out all the concepts was actually during the pandemic, and there are a lot of, shall I say, pandemic inspired ideas that have manifested themselves in the book. But if there had been no pandemic, would there still be a book? Yes, yes, there would be. It's just I wrote it during the pandemic years, and therefore some of the ideas, some of the examples I gave have been pandemic inspired.
Well, I mean, there's something definitely to be said to be striking while the iron is hot, since you were writing something in the space, and that. But that's just it. It's like I say, it's sometimes you have to look at adversity as a door to creating opportunity, don't you?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, life isn't flat. It's not a flat line, is it? We have peaks and troughs, and that's again going back to that word agility, which maybe being a little bit overused. It's also trying to find the opportunity. You could just bump into people. You can go to an event, or meet some folks for a coffee and have a chat, and somebody says something, and that just triggers an idea in your head, and then you just pick it up and you run with it.
Yeah, and that's something to be said as well for a conversational type when you're trying to come up with ideas. Yeah, it's I think that I talk to a lot of authors, obviously, in the course of my business, and a lot of them say that it's in that course of writing that book, especially when they were talking with some of our people, like our project directors, they went in directions they never would have gone otherwise.
Absolutely. I mean, in this journey that I've had writing this book, through obviously Leaders Press, it's been a bumpy journey because, as I said, we did it during COVID, and all of us involved have been impacted by it, and with the some of the team on the Leaders Press side, I know some of them had to disappear because of COVID. That was very, very unfortunate. And I have to admit, with this book, I'm more than a year behind schedule for it being published, for many, many good reasons. Is that disappointing? Well, if I'm sticking to a rigid time schedule, yes. But is the end product better today than it would have been a year ago? Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll pick up on a point you said, is that it's through the interaction with the different people that you can go off on avenues that I never thought of. So when I'm looking at, I'm trying to follow the outline that I put together literally 2 years ago, which made sense 2 years ago. But after we had actually, after the book had been done, and I've had various editors from Leaders Press look at it and give me different feedback, I actually had to do a big rethink, and I restructured the whole thing into something that was far more logical. And it was actually different from the order of the original outline 2 years ago. And some things that I thought were going to feature very strongly, they featured less strongly. And some things that I thought, oh, that's sort of quite interesting because of the to and fro that I had with Leaders Press and some of the folks on your team there, it triggered these other ideas, and that it grew into something more significant. Okay, so without the team's involvement, I might have had my book of 2 years ago, which I don't think would be as good a book. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something to be said for having some kind of help to get you to that finish line faster, because I mean, what you're telling me with your book and what we're seeing in the world is that things can change so fast. If you're taking a very long time on something, it's like I'm going to do this myself, and I'm going to make sure it's right. And your time frame is 3 or 4 or 5 years. You may not be in the same world at the end of that.
Absolutely. I mean, some of the concepts, from the beginning were very, very much, as we were doing this in 2020, they're very, very much impacted by COVID. Maybe that was picking out elements, and because they were so top of mind, and being stuck indoors, and on the lockdown that we had, just thinking COVID all the time. But as time progressed, and COVID was going to get dealt with, I think what we had to write about in the book could not just be COVID related. It had to be much broader than that. And COVID has come and gone, as it were, or pretty much gone. And people are trying to forget it, I'm sure. And so to have a book that's only about that is not going to last very long. It would have done good if it had come out a year ago.
Yeah.
So the book that will be coming out, and maybe has already come out by the time this podcast is published. Yes, it talks about COVID. All right, so the fires of COVID, as it were, help stoke it, but its application doesn't have to have anything to do with COVID at all. COVID's help maybe make people feel the way that I think that they feel, and therefore they will resonate with quite a lot some of the concepts that I have in the book, because not everyone has adjusted from COVID. But throwing this and trying not to use that word COVID anymore, talk about the unusuality of things. When we look at the Great Resignation, I mean, if you look at the press of the last few months, and we start looking at the massive tech layoffs by the big tech firms who seem to have latched onto the magic, oh, we'll let 6% of our headcount go. That's thousands, that's tens of thousands of people. Okay, that's got nothing to do with COVID, you could say, but it is people losing their jobs, and some of them not losing it in a nice way, and a lot of them, I'm sure, getting a bit of an unwelcome surprise when they got hit with that. Okay, so the feelings that people may have are not going to be a million miles away if, for example, it was the same person who got the same thing 1 or 2 years ago as a result of COVID downsizing, and it's hit them again. So that's not usual, it's a bit unusual, but going back to our conversation earlier, hey, these curveballs are going to keep coming at us. And as it seems things are picking up momentum, the speed at which curveballs are coming appears to maybe be faster.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing about it is too, and I think that there's something called the Texas sharpshooter fallacy. You count all your hits, but you ignore all your misses. No one was saying, I want things to go back to normal in the tech boom, when in the .com boom. None of the .com said, oh, I want things to go back to normal. I want the bust.
Absolutely. So maybe it's the way that, the world is going. I mean, there'll always be upstarts. There'll always be disruptors. So let's get used to it. Let's get more resilient. Let's just bounce back and get on with it. And again, that's what the book is about.
Fantastic. Well, Rick, do you have any last advice for our audience that's listening? Just a word of wisdom that they can take with them?
For those people in the audience who are thinking, okay, I have some knowledge in my head. I've always wanted to write a book. Shall I do it? My advice is, press that button and just get it done. That's exactly what I did with Leaders Press, because it's just been that thing in the back of my mind. And, you know, I was getting that analysis paralysis. There's no way I was going to end up doing it myself and reading the 50 books that I bought to work out how to write a book. I needed some expert help to fast track it. And it's been a most enjoyable journey. Okay. And like all journeys, you know, there's been some highs and there's been some lows, but you know, we've got there. It's been 2 years or so with Leaders Press, and this is for book 1. Okay. I've already signed up for book number 2. And hey, we're going to do it not all over again. We're just going to continue the journey. Yep. But now we know where the rough edges are. We know where some of the potholes are. Yeah, we can just ignore those and we'll avoid them. And let's just carry on with this great journey. So I look forward to it.
Wonderful. And I love the unsolicited endorsements. Thank you so much for that, Rick. How can our audience find you and get in touch with you?
Sorry?
How can our audience find and get in touch with you?
Okay, to get in touch with me, pretty simple. I have a website that is my name, rickyvanovich.com. And strangely enough, if you Google the name, there's only one of those in the world.
That used to be something that we share, but there is now another Andrew Dupy, and he is a young basketball player that is in much better shape than I am. So good luck to him. He may be watching this right now because I show up on his social media all the time.
I'm sure it's just your doppelganger, yeah? Yep, I'm sure you're 6'6", aren't you? Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with us, Rick. We really appreciate it. We wish the best of luck to you in the future, and we look forward to your future books.
Thanks very much, Andrew, and thanks everyone for listening.